Jesus left the 99 for one, right? We can all agree that that's a story about craziness, because why on earth would you leave a vast majority for one person? Sometimes whenever you're creating for social media, that's what that craziness feels like. Like, yeah, it didn't hit 99, but it hit the one person just right.
Creative people, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Creatives Are Essential podcast. My name is Christina. To my left, I have Will Stitt.
Yo.
To my right, I have Joe Stitt.
Wagwan, friends.
They're brothers, if you didn't know.
Yes.
And we have a very special guest with us. This is a very important show. I'm excited to have him on. We have the creator of CRTV Church on Instagram. We have Nik Goodner with us. What's going on, Nick?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's going on,
Everything
man?
is good.
Glad
I got my first question ready for you if you're ready for it.
Oh, we're being interviewed.
Oh, you're going to be interviewed.
Okay.
Sorry, you guys should know this by now. I'm the one who plays host. Joseph and Will, are you guys twin brothers or is it just brothers?
No, we're just brothers. We're actually
just brothers. Okay.
Yeah, they're like 8 years apart, I believe.
Yeah.
7 or 8.
I don't know if that's a compliment for me or like if that's a compliment for him or if that's an insult to me.
I don't know either, but I will say this: you do look like brothers.
Okay.
Awesome.
It's the beards.
You have the same facial features. Like you look like brother. I could have sworn you might have been twins.
Wow. That's it's crazy. If you shave off our beards, because we have an older brother as well. We all look completely alike. It's crazy. If the facial hair comes off, it's hard to distinguish.
Yeah.
Genetics.
Person.
You'd be pulling a Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen on us.
Right.
Just swapping the saddle all the time.
Yeah. Will, just go ahead and go bald, and then
I do.
Yeah. You know,
I do it like at least maybe every 4 or 5 months or so, and I don't tell anybody I'm gonna do it. I just do it. I'll just shave my beard off one night and just show up the next day
as Joseph.
Exactly. You come in and they're like, hey, Joe, Will,
right?
Who I got here? Who do I have
here?
Right.
Yeah, but it's not always received too well.
Yeah,
but I think they're getting used to it, like
because it's a shock. That's all.
It's a shock. Then they're like, we know it'll grow back. So,
if I shaved my hair, there would be riots in the streets. People would be that disappointed.
Absolutely.
People would be so bummed.
Same here.
They would.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, Nick.
I do an Instagram thing every week where I post and say, people ask me questions. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get a hair question that day.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like, it's nothing special. You act like I'm out here like praying over my hair every morning.
Right.
Like,
I mean, you have a nice thing going there.
You do have the signature kind of the Mohawk wave. I don't know what you call it, but
the Mohawk wave. Actually, that's a good name for it. I'm gonna write that down. Next time someone asks, it's the Mohawk wave. Thank you.
Right. Trademarked here, right here on
Trademark Mohawk wave. Everybody be going to their barber, be like, "Hey, could you give me the Mohawk wave?" And they'd be like, "What?"
Oh, I saw it on the Creatives Are Essential podcast.
I saw it on the Creatives Are Essential podcast, and there was this guy, and he had the Mohawk wave.
Okay, I think we're spending a little too long on facial hair, and being the only one without a beard. It does feel kind of awkward.
Yeah. That concludes this segment of facial hair talk on Creatives Are Essential.
That's hilarious.
Boom.
Well, Nick, for those of you or for the people out there who don't know who you are, what you do, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So first thing you got to know is I love to come on podcasts and derail podcasts. That's my favorite thing in the entire world.
All right, so check.
And so check one for that. Second is I created something called CRTV Church about 5 years ago, and it's a community for church creatives. And we have about 11,000 people who follow us or are in our member group on Facebook, and then about 80,000 followers on Instagram. Basically our goal is to just challenge the creative mind and restore the creative soul. Like, we want to be a church for church creatives. So been doing that for 5 years, and we do events, podcasts, content, and things like that to kind of help out creatives and kind of meet them where they're at.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, man. Like,
thanks.
Where did this come from? Like, how was this thing birthed?
So it came after my wife and I were working for a church plant, and the church close. That's a nice way to put it. It's a little bit murky on how the circumstances went down, but the church folded, and we kind of kicked ourselves for about 6 months after that happened. And then after doing that, I kind of got this feeling that, it's very lonely when a church closes. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but whenever a church closes, it's very lonely, especially to people on staff, because if you're on staff at a church, you kind of already have this separation that exists between you and the people that attend the church. Mm-hmm. And so then whenever the church closes, suddenly for some reason this is amplified. So this separation is now like really wide. And my wife and I experienced that. So the separation was just huge. And I kind of felt like there ought to be something that people can come to, like a network, community, something that people could come to that were of a creative disposition, that worked in the church, where they always had a friend base, basically. Mm-hmm. So that if they're transitioning out of their church job or something happens and they're in a bad church experience, because that does happen a lot, they can have somewhere to run to. They can have somewhere to be like they're a part of. So that was the initial vision of Creative Church, was to bring creatives together. And we've been doing the best ever since to make that happen. But yeah, it kind of came out of that place of where we felt the pain. And then it's like, maybe we can do something about it. And that was our answer to doing something about it.
That's awesome, man.
That is. And I know we all follow Creative Church on Instagram. We've been following for years, and just the content that you guys put out is just amazing.
Yeah.
And very helpful. I remember,
for sure.
I believe there was it was a post that you made about understanding how creatives like flow or function, and like how pastors can
how to lead creatives better. I remember it because I shared it, hoping my boss would see it.
And but it was. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's 98% of the posts that I make are through that filter of like, what would I say to my boss if I could? And then, you share that. You just kind of hope that maybe that pastor sees that and realizes, hey, maybe I can clean myself up here
and they saw it. A little bit better. So mission accomplished for me.
Was the treatment better? Did they understand you better? No. Okay.
But they did see it.
I tried.
I lead a horse to water, but I can't make him drink. I'm sorry.
Right. But I was gonna say, like, even in that, like, the goal is to kind of educate, your leaders and stuff like that to help them understand the process. But I think even in that post, I learned a little bit more about myself too in the creative, and like stuff that I didn't even realize about myself. Like, man, I am a little sensitive about my work. I'm not always, ready to just put it out there. And then when you critique it, don't cut it to shreds. Like, please be sensitive to my feelings and stuff. But I just felt like I learned so much, and you put words to the things that I felt. Through the posts that I've seen. I just want to say thanks. I'm just thankful for that, man.
Yeah, you guys are doing an awesome job.
Yeah, and
thank you.
I can also touch on that. I don't know if you remember, but it was either last year or sometime in 2019. And it was also the time when I first discovered Creative Church. But there was a video, I believe, or a post where you said the primary driver of our creativity should be our compassion for others. And that was something that just resonated with me, and it stuck with me. It still does, because in the beginning for me, like, I started out as a photographer, and then that later grew into videography. But it was more of the fact of like, I like to take these photos and then I like to give them almost as a gift. And it's almost like that gift that nobody asked for, but they always appreciated it. And I just got a joy out of that. So that was definitely something I still resonate with to this day.
Oh, that's awesome. That's phenomenal. I wish I could say that I could take a compliment well, and I'm one of those people, but I just, now y'all made it awkward for me. I'll see y'all later.
I'm not really sure what to do with my hands.
Right.
I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that. It is kind. It's very kind of you.
No, most definitely. That's real though. Like, what'd you say about taking a compliment? you're right though, because when you get them, it's like,
oh, what do I do with them?
It's like, thanks.
But actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of the content that you put out is geared towards helping creatives understand the intent behind what you create. And like he said, like, it should be about serving others. Like, how can we not only serve God, but serve others through the stuff that we create?
Yeah. So, he gave away the main tagline, which is compassion should be our primary driver. I think that a lot of times as a creative, we get into this because we're passionate about design or we're passionate about photography, right? I don't think any of us just get into this because we hate graphic design. Be an odd way to start, but I think it's because we see something that, for me, let me just give you an example. For me, it was, I was sitting in a church one day and I was thinking, good God, these graphics suck. Like, I come from a church background that was doves and flames. Like, that was, we did everything on Microsoft Publisher, right? So that's where I come from. And so, like, sitting there thinking, good God, there has to be a better way. Like, this can't be it.
Yeah, we come from that. We come from that too.
Yeah,
so you understand.
You're preaching to the right people right now.
Doves and flames.
I'm preaching to the choir. Good deal. So, sitting in that environment, growing up in the environment, then you kind of get frustrated in that environment. It becomes like an anger. For me, it came like an anger, where it was like, these people don't know what they're doing. There has got to be something else. And that pushed me into kind of that creative sphere, where it was, what can we do to communicate and illustrate gospel better? Like, what can be done to do it the way that the world works, I guess. Like, the world works off of their sight and sound generation. They're very, very geared towards what stories being told. Like, just look at what's going on with WandaVision right now. Like, that's a TV show that should not work.
Come on.
But because it has years of background, because it has so many layers to it, it's working, and it's working really well. Yeah. I know my Disney stock is up.
Come on.
So there was a quote by someone, and I can't remember who, but it was one of my early years, and it said, our theaters are full because the world lies well, while our churches are empty because we tell the truth poorly. And that really pushed me into, how do we tell the truth better? How do we illustrate it in a way that people will understand and that we'll be able to communicate with them? So that's where that all started. So we get into all this, we get into all this because of our passion, right? I'm passionate about telling the truth better. I'm passionate about graphics. I'm passionate about photography. I'm passionate about videos. And along the way, we become, as creatives, we can become absorbed with, how do we make this better? How do we make this better? We never really stop to think, who are we creating this for?
Right.
Yeah.
Why are we creating this? And, to steal that MCU analogy again, Disney knows their audience. I listened to their Investor Day, Partner Day, whatever it's called, this past year, and they're just talking, like, they had a whole segment about how they're using all this data that they're collecting from us on Disney Plus to tell better stories. Like, they listen to the audience first. And I think that the church can sometimes, because we reached a place in the church where creativity is now accepted. Like, we know we need to have better brands. We know we need to tell better stories. But now we got to kind of push that pendulum back a little bit and say, don't forget the people. Right. Don't forget that this is about our compassion. The Bible says that Jesus was moved by his compassion. It's up to us to also be moved by the same thing. That should be our primary driver for our creativity, is our compassion for others.
So we learn in marketing, like, the most successful companies are those that make the customer the hero instead of talking about themselves. And that, like you said, Disney's using that information to listen to their customers. And that reminded me of that. And I just think that that's important. And I think it's cool that Creative Church is also centered around that.
Yeah. I will say, we're not doing it as invasive as I feel like Disney does it, but we are.
Thankfully.
Just want to make that clear. Like, I'm not for being invasive, but I'm not tracking all of you guys' purchases. I promise.
Yeah. Just kind of like the thought process as far as, you care about what your listeners and your readers are doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, and definitely you guys are in the right space to do it. Last show we talked about social media and like the effects of it. And I know that's something that you speak on a lot, like navigating social media as creatives. Like when I was on Creative Church Instagram page today, and one of the things that was on there is like, how do you deal with like negative comments and all this stuff? So it's like you're putting out the content that kind of helps us, in this virtual world, What would you like? What's your take on social media? Like the state of social media right now for creatives?
So for me, I love it. And I've always loved social media. The day I could get my Facebook account was a big day for me. I remember it very well. Because I was a kid whenever Facebook rolled out. I had a MySpace. MySpace wasn't my jam, but Facebook was my jam because I love MySpace too, but there was this girl that only used Facebook at my school.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
Yeah, so
Got it.
I owe it all to her, that 8th grade crush, because the reason why I was on Facebook. So she would only talk through Facebook too. So we get on there and talk. So anyway, so I remember Facebook very well. So I love social media. I look at it like, for me, like maybe design might be your thing or photography might be yours. For me, social media is my art. Like this is where I create at. It's my it's my sandbox. And so like, I don't have a very cynical view on it. I understand there's arguments out there that it's becoming more and more, like people feel like they need to separate themselves completely from it. I just think it's just melding into our lives. And I think some people are going to be resistant to that at first. We're going to say, I don't really want Facebook or social media to meld into my life. But for those early adapters, I think that we already have let it mold into that. Like, it's just a piece of me. Like, I'm not even thinking, like, I don't even think, here's the digital world, here's the physical world, right? Like, I don't think like that. Like, to me, it's just all, like, it's just all together, right? I'm not going to Instagram. Like, I'm on it. Like, I will, like, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of hard to explain how, I think for me, that line has been blurred, where I just kind of pass.
It's just so naturally through. A part of our lives now.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you fully avoid it?
Right. Right. I think there's some resistance to that though, because people don't like change. But ultimately, I think I haven't seen any terrible bad. It's not been bad to me. So
that's a really interesting.
I'm coming from an aspect of I like to create there. So
yeah, that's an interesting perspective though, because I've never heard it in that way, where you actually are taking social media itself as an art form.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
Would you say, like, well, I'm going to assume that you feel like you have a healthy relationship with social media. Like, it's not, you don't feel like you have, like, you're on it too much or whatever. Like you say, it's just a part of who you are. Do you feel like there is potential or it is unhealthy for some people, or people have an unhealthy balance with social media?
That's a good conversation to get into, because there is a toxicity that you can have with the relationship you have with social media. And we see this a lot in creative sphere and just in the influencer sphere in a general sense. Like, people will begin to look at the metrics of that social media platform. Let's take Instagram's likes, and they'll begin to weigh their worth, their value off of how many likes that got. So for me, if something doesn't perform well on Creative Church, or something doesn't perform well on my Instagram story, that's not going to ruin my day either. Like, that's the other thing that we have to think about. Like, if we're getting to a place where social media is ruining our day because we didn't get the likes that we wanted, that's whenever we start to have to ask ourselves, okay, am I in a very toxic relationship here? Because this thing is determining my mood. This thing that really, how many likes something gets doesn't really matter. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
it's really about what, I think you guys said this the other day or recently, maybe today. It's really about creating what you like. And then to me, the likes have always followed. Like there's stuff I post on Facebook that nobody even understands the joke, but I get it. And I think it's funny. So
yeah. So do you think, so that really starts with the perspective of the person, right? Like right. You have to have an understanding of, or let me say this, a posture of how, how I'm going to respond when this post performs or doesn't perform the way I want it to. I think that's we were kind of talking about this a lot last week on the last episode, and how people can really tie their self-worth to these analytics, you know?
Right.
And it's I was going somewhere. Wait. People could tie their self-worth to these analytics, but they can't seem to. Man, I Michael Scotted that. I really did. I'm like, I was like, man, if I just keep talking, I'll find it.
I'll find it along the way.
I'll find this. Yeah.
Man, hold on. Give me 1 second.
They can't see the separation, for one. Right. I feel like.
Yeah.
They get to a place where they can't see that, and my dog is barking. But they get to that place where they can't see that separation between, what they've created and how much how much likes it's getting, right? Yeah. I kind of look at it like this. Jesus left the 99 for one, right? We can all agree that that's a story about craziness, because why on earth would you leave a vast majority for one person? Sometimes whenever you're creating for social media, that's what that craziness feels like. Like, yeah, it didn't hit 99, but it hit the one person just right.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I'm going for here.
Yeah.
If I create something, maybe it was just for one person. If I put something out there, maybe that one like was the one like it needed.
Right.
Right. And, there's a lot of people who will see your stuff. They're not going to like it. They're not going to care. They'll keep scrolling. Yeah. Like, I know for a fact that if I saw that post from you guys, there's a chance I didn't like it, because I don't typically like things on Instagram. Like, it's just not a habit of mine to double click.
Right.
So I'm just scrolling through, reading it. Now, it did affect me because I enjoyed it. I liked what you had posted. I thought about it, but I didn't engage with it, or I didn't, do what I probably should have as a good social media user. But
but it still hit you.
As a good friend, but it still hit me. And that's the case with a lot of social media that I think that we're not realizing is sometimes things can hit people and they may never interact with it.
You said something that I thought was pretty interesting, like how you said about liking, that's not particularly a habit that you have, which is
right.
Which is interesting, because I've kind of been getting to that as well. And I don't think it's been intentional. It's just kind of happened that way. But I find myself more so saving posts to go back to later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like how you said, it's for that one. It's almost like if you reverse it, it's like, what if this is for me type of thing. So instead of liking it, I'm just going to save it for myself and go back and check it out later.
Well, according to the algorithm gurus, saving is actually more important than a like. So,
really? Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Wow.
I don't know.
No, he said no.
I don't know. I don't care.
Nick's no.
I'm starting to not care about the algorithm anymore.
It's one of those things that people people use it as like the excuse as to why they're not getting likes. And so they come up with like this, here's 4 reasons, like these underground metrics, like saves and stuff like that. And you can't find, I promise you, I've searched. I cannot find one article that actually backs any of that up. It started back in 2018, where I started seeing like people like saying, saves are like the dominant thing. And it's like, I don't think that's it. I think more people are becoming accustomed to not liking things because, there has been a shift in the consumer, if we want to talk data, that they think liking things is going to get them a retargeted ad. So there is that thought in the majority, like because of these documentaries of Netflix and stuff, that what you interact with will eventually be advertised to you. So more people are going to the place where they're not interacting with anything, which is, so I have noticed that, and some of the people I've talked to have started saying that. And that's probably why I subconsciously don't interact with anything, but it doesn't stop them because they just look at our microphones. So
right.
So how do you feel about the algorithm as a whole, as it's ever changing and evolving and all that?
I just thank the great Instagram gods that let me go to work today. I don't think about it too much. I really don't. It's not like something I'm trying to hack. I know there's a lot of people out there that think that we can hack the algorithm. I don't know that you can. There's stuff that I put out that I know is good, and it won't get any likes. It won't get any, no engagement whatsoever. And there's stuff that I put out that I know is crap, and it'll go through the roof. And there's no way to determine which gets which and which doesn't. And we just got to keep creating good content. Like you guys said, keep creating things that you like, and be intentional about reaching the people that you feel called to reach. Yeah. And I think that's another thing that, while I don't like a lot, I do comment a ton, and I do DM a lot, and I do have actual interactions with these people on these social media platforms, because that's important to me. That's important that I'm actually interacting with that person behind that profile picture.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that's what all this that we're doing, whether you're creative in the church or you're creative for a business, like, you're reaching people, and we have to be intentional about going beyond that like. And sometimes that like is just a little too passive. Like, you need to comment on stuff. You need to engage with folks.
Yeah.
Nick, you're really speaking my language right now. Like,
I was going to say that because go ahead.
No, I just like that. You are really speaking my language, because for me, I'm not big on interactions, virtual interactions rather, and it just feels ingenuine, or it just feels like, I don't know. It's not genuine. I guess that's really the base root.
So what's a virtual interaction for you? Because based on what I just understood you to say, was like, you do comment and you do DM and you do like, be intentional about building relationships, even though they may be on social media.
Well, I took virtual interactions, if not to put words in your mouth, I took it as, you don't like the people trying to fill a quota, like whenever they're engaging with you, like that's how I kind of took it. Like,
yeah. And now
they're not the ones that just comment on there and say, great post.
Right.
Excellent. Good job. Like,
nice
you don't care about those people. And I get that. I don't care about those people either.
I'll put it like this, because I remember when Instagram first came out, like, I enjoyed it because it was really based around photography and like, what kind of stuff can you create and all this stuff. And it was a chronological timeline and all this stuff, and you can really engage with people in this different type of way. But now it's like, everything seems to be like a transaction, or like some type of, like, there's a deeper business behind the reason why I actually posted.
It's a marketing funnel. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right. And I enjoyed to just be able to post a picture because, man, that actually looks kind of cool. You know what? Post. Right. You know what I mean? So to hear you say, like, I want to connect with this person, it's almost like kind of finding a way to still make that interaction, even though this platform is trying to get you to not, or they're not making it easy for you to have those same types of interactions. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's kind of more so where I'm coming from when I'm looking at it. But I just love that, man. You really, like, that hit for me,
Good.
That really hit.
Thank you.
Well, I have a question for you. You stressed the importance of having like a healthy relationship with social media. Do you take like breaks from social media at all?
Oh yeah, every week, Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, you probably won't see me on there. Maybe some weeks. This week was because you guys know this. I had a friend who passed away, so I was on social media that day. But most of the time, most Saturdays, most Sundays, I have a family farm here in Tennessee, and so we'll go out there whenever we go out there, you don't get service anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, so you can't.
So I try to make a hard, like, Sunday, just I'm not there. Saturdays is a hit or miss. And that's not, let me stress this. This is not like religious. Like, I'm not like, every Saturday and Sunday I must be off social media. It's just like on Saturday and Sunday, I'm not going to engage with social media as much as I typically would during the week. Because, if you're working in the social media realm, that this is all your life Monday through Friday. Like, this is it. Like, I'm getting DMs right now about things that I know I'm gonna have to check after this meeting. Like, it's just, or not the meeting, interview. And it's a constant. So like that Monday through Friday, I try to be there in person, but Saturday and Sunday, I try to just, if you message me, if I really want to, I'll get back with you. If not, I'm going to wait till Monday.
Got you.
That's good.
That's kind of what I was getting at too, because I know a lot of our jobs, nowadays are they force us to interact with social media. So like for those people who need like a break, like how do you, we talked about this last week, I think, but like, how do you navigate that?
We, as us who are, we're speaking out, the creators are essential, your podcast, your platform, our creative church. I think for us as the influencer, the platform, the role model, I think it's up to us to kind of continue to speak out, for rest days or for taking social media, like normalize not being on social media sometimes. I've even had this thought for like the creative church group, like, what if we just shut off being able to interact with the creative church group on Sunday? Like, what if we did that? It would be a big risk. It would be interesting to see what happened, but I thought about it because we have to get to a place where, especially people who are not in the social media realm, like the pastoral staff for churches and the bosses for organizations, where they're thinking, well, we just got to go. Someone has to be out every day. And if a customer, messages us at 2 a.m. at night, they got to be taken care of. Like, normalizing it for them. Because I think the social media person, the communicator, already knows this. Like, we already know we got to distance ourselves from this at least once a day, or at least once a week. But for those people who are not in this realm, they think something has to go out all the time, and they're not really realizing all that encompasses being on social media constantly.
Yeah, for sure. You have it. I want to jump into a little segment that we call Creative Confessions.
Oh yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Excellent. You guys confessing to me?
Not quite. I think it's actually going to be the other way around. But the first question
Forgive us, Nick, for we have sinned. We use Comic Sans. we use Comic Sans in our last
papyrus.
Go, my brother. Do 40 Photoshop tutorials.
Oh my gosh. But the first question I have for you, what is something that you struggle with as a creative?
Something I struggle with as a creative is focus. It is very hard for me as someone who really likes to start things to continue them. So like, for instance, Creative Church is a miracle that it's been going on for 5 years and that I have not just left it and done something else.
No, I feel you on that one.
Because there's been times where I've been like, you know what? I think I could be a really good Disney blogger. Like, like, I think I could just leave all this behind and just go write about movies for a little while. So it's really a struggle for me to stay focused and keep locked in on what it is I know that I feel called to do. And I think that's something I said the other day on Instagram, which was, that calling that you have on your life, that you feel like God has called you to do this or that, that's going to come with things that you're not going to like to do. Like, I don't always enjoy my job 100%, but that doesn't negate the duty that I have towards that project that I feel like God's called me to do. So keeping that in mind and keeping focused on that, like, that's probably the biggest struggle I have is there's going to be days I don't like this. There's going to be days where I don't want to do this, want to be a part of this, but I have to continue because this is what, like, it feels mandated to me. Like, I have to do this. But yeah, so focus as a creative, focus is huge for me. I struggle with it all the time. So
yeah, that really resonates with me because I find it extremely hard to be consistent with things that I know I should be doing, but it's like, stay at it, don't lose the fire that you have for something.
That's good. All right. Yeah. So next up, how do you deal with creative block?
Yeah. So there's something that I read a long time ago, and it said, whenever you're feeling unmotivated, read. Whenever you're feeling, when you're feeling, not unmotivated, but you're feeling just like confused, like you're unclear, like with what you should do. Mm-hmm. So like there's motivation, and then there's motivation without clarity, right? Like I feel like I should be doing something, but I don't know what to do. Like I'm just kind of in this bee swarm of my thoughts, right? Yeah. Whenever you're in that mode, write. And then whenever you can't figure out which one you're in, do a little bit of both. And so that's kind of been my philosophy for tackling creative block, is if I'm in a place where I'm just like, I don't feel like doing anything today, I'll pick up a book, I'll read. If I'm in a place where, that busyness is going on, I don't really know, I'm just unclear, I'll write. And then if I can't decide which one I'm in, I'll just do a little bit of both. So thank you, Pinterest. Circa 2016. Thank you.
Now, when you read, is that like fictional, nonfiction?
I only read nonfiction. I do not read fiction.
Amen.
I've never been a good fiction reader. That's what they made movies for. And honestly, as good as documentaries are getting now, I might slip out to not even reading nonfiction anymore. Wow. But yeah, I've always liked the medium of movies and television, so I don't read fiction, but I do read a lot of nonfiction.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, I'll wait till it comes out.
I'll wait till I'm waiting on a documentary about Abraham Lincoln right now, because the book my wife got me was way too thick. So
okay, last question. What is your biggest fear as a creative?
Dang.
Think about that.
Oh, man. So let me think about that one. I'm trying to, my biggest fear is not, personally, for me, it's not doing anything with my life. My father passed away when I was 5 years old. And so I've kind of always felt like I owe it to him to do something grandiose, do something big in this space, because he was a pastor, his dad was a pastor, and his dad was a pastor. Wow. So like I come from this long line of pastors. And so to be doing what I'm doing right now makes me conscious of how proud I think he would have been of what we're doing. And that does help me to continue on that legacy that he's left, and me and my sisters. So that's my biggest fear, is that I just don't amount to anything and no one remembers me, and my GoFundMe gets $0 whenever I die. You have to cut that one out.
No, that's absolutely staying.
That's staying. That's going to be the headline. I don't want my GoFundMe to get $0 when I die. But my biggest fear, like, to take it outside of myself, my biggest fear is seeing creatives continue getting. I just don't feel like they get the justice they deserve. There's a lot of injustice in the creative space because we have leaders who they don't know how to work with a creative, right? Yeah. Like I know you've experienced leaders who just don't know how to work with creative. They don't know how to talk creative. And instead of fixing that, or instead of trying, it's just, they go, well, I'm just not creative. And they just, wave of the hand, and they don't care.
Yeah.
And what I see from that, for me, is, especially in the church space, because that's where my work's concentrated at, is the church space. When I see that in the church space, it breaks my heart, because I know what creativity could be if we were able to be the people God had called us to be versus just branders or marketers in the space, right?
Yeah.
Like we're more than just that guy that designs elevation sermon graphics for your church. Like we're more than that.
Yeah.
We actually have our own spiritual walk. We have our own spiritual ideas. Like we have this artistic part of us that could really bring stories to life, but there's an injustice of us not being able to do that because people have written creatives off as, well, we just don't understand them. We just don't get it. We're not creative. So why would we even try to be creative? And so that's my biggest fear, is seeing that continue and seeing it run as rampant as I've seen it run in the past 10 years of being a part of the church myself. I want to see that kind of reconciliation where there's a lot more strength in the creative mind to lead the church in a spiritual way through their creativity. And that sounds it doesn't sound fun. What does it sound like? I think sometimes to creatives that can sound like, oh, we have to be, posting Bible scriptures all the time, but that's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Humor is a spiritual aspect, right? Like entertainment is a spiritual aspect, right? So all these things are a part of our creativity and should be a part of the church, but yet I feel like they're just being cut off because pastors they don't care. They don't care enough to learn about the creative mind and the creative aspect of the spirituality that they're involved in. So
the interesting paradox in that is I do feel like creatives get written off easily, but at the same time, we are so vital to how, an organization communicates with the audience that they're trying to reach. Yeah. And I think COVID really revealed that, because now you have to lean on, your creative. So you can't just leave it at, I'm not creative, so I don't know how to, what they do is not as important, it's we like all creatives, I feel, during COVID, and still, we're kind of pushed to the forefront. So it's kind of like we have to lead that charge in a sense. And, it takes, unfortunately, something like that to happen to realize the part that we play as a whole in organizations.
Yeah. I see a lot of creatives developing a lot of resiliency right now and a lot of strength in what they've gone through over the past year. I've also seen a lot of creatives burned out because of what's happened over the past year. Yeah. I think that we're struggling a little bit with, there's no doubt in my mind, creatives can take the workload. I think it's just how we're carrying that workload is what it's coming down to. And I think that's causing our burnout more than a lot of other, it's not the workload. It's just how we've learned to carry that. And I think we're carrying it poorly as creatives right now.
Yeah. But, and I think it comes down to leadership to kind of make sure that the creatives don't get burned out. I think there has to be systems in place that allow for the normality of rest.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, especially in the church, because there is an emphasis, like there's a whole day that's dedicated to rest, not doing anything else, not doing, this, that, and the third. Like you have to have that time to set yourself aside. And so I think it's super duper important for all pastors, all that, you have to be able to make that a priority. Yeah. That even not just the people that are cleaning up the church or the ones that are, running the cafe or taking out the trash, not just them, but you also got to realize that your creatives are, they need to take a break as well, because even though it's not physical labor, man, there is a lot of work that takes place.
It's mental labor. It's mentally tasking.
Yeah.
And I think because we sit at desks, people just don't think that it's a lot of work. But I'll tell you what, you try pounding out a script and let's see how far you can get.
Man, Nick, I wrote the most basic, simple script. It might have been 2 pages. It might have been 2 pages. And it took everything within me. And it was only one person. It wasn't even like a 2-person dialogue. It was, or wait, no, it was 2 people because it was stupid. Yeah. It was called Spy Wash, and it was really dumb.
All right, but, Michael Scott.
Yeah, that's my threat level midnight.
It's threat level midnight.
But yeah, man, I know what you said. Like, gosh, it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you.
Or you write a script for talent who just doesn't respect it at all. Like I'll use myself for example.
It's okay, Joe. It's okay.
I spent 3 days. I spent 3 days writing a script because we're announcing Couch Fest this week. And so I spent 3 days writing the script for like that promo video. And then I just went and threw all that out and did it like just freeballed it, just I'm going to do this. I'm not even going to do what I wrote.
Oh my God.
That's I was both the perpetrator and the victim in one
time.
setting. Like at the same time. I was like, wow, I've really wasted some time here today, haven't I?
That's hilarious. Well, I have one more question for you.
For sure.
What would be some advice that you give to other creatives, not just in, the church, but as a whole, people just in different organizations? Like, what would you say to them?
Yeah. So my biggest piece of advice for creatives is always find your people, find your tribe, find your community, find people that you can get around that know about you, know about this world. Because it's very hard to talk to your mom about the struggles of script writing. I know, trust me. Yes, your mom, unless she is a script writer, she will not understand. I promise you that. So find people that you can bounce ideas off of, and not just bounce ideas off, but just hang out with, that understand your world, that like what you like, because that right there, especially in the creative world where most of our work is done on a laptop. Most of us who maybe if you're a freelancer or if you're working for something, you're probably working from home right now. Most of that work is done by yourself, siloed off from other people. And then the only time you interact with people is whenever they're coming to tell you what you've done wrong and what to change. And that can be very soul crushing of a job. So find people that you can get around that's not doing that for you. Like they're not there to credit or edit you and critique your work. Like they're there to support you and be for you. So that's always number one advice. Find people you can be with.
That's great.
That is so good.
I mean, that could be a whole nother podcast right there, but that is so good.
Yeah.
Well,
but you guys got to do that other podcast where it's, I don't want $0 going to my GoFundMe at the end of this.
Oh man. My goodness.
Well, Nik, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. I love what you're doing. Like it's awesome, and I'm glad. I mean, everything that you're just dropping so many gems.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this several times just to catch
you're
everything.
Too kind. You're very kind.
Well, tell people how they can connect with you on social media and all the different platforms.
Yeah. So if you wanna watch Instagram stories all day, you can go to Nik Goodner. That's Nik Goodner, Goodner on Instagram, and that's all I do there. I very rarely post to my feed, but I most likely let my life play out in those Instagram stories. If you're wanting to, they've all talked about my content and stuff. But if you want to read that, you have to go to Creative Church. That's CRTV Church. And it's on Instagram as well. And then we have a Facebook group also called Creative Church. But really the best thing to do is just go to the Instagram page and then look at the link tree. It's all there. I pay $5 a month so that you all can find everything you need on that link tree. So
Nik, you're awesome, man.
I can't.
Yeah.
Oh, and real quick, I know that you also have My Dear Creatives.
Yes, My Dear Creatives is another account I've started, and that's something that I've been. It's definitely just play. Like that's whenever I was talking about Instagram as my art. Like that's an account that's just I'm putting out little chunks of wisdom that I've just found throughout the day whenever I can. There's no real strategy to. So if you follow that account, you might find some nuggets. But just know that I'm just there to encourage you as a creative. So
that's awesome.
Dope.
Yeah.
All right, Nik, I just want to thank you again.
Yes.
I'm never good at wrapping these things up, but thanks for joining us. If you want to follow us and what we're doing, you can go follow us on Instagram at Creatives Are Essential. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, to wherever you're listening to this. Yeah. And get you some Creatives Are Essential merch. Yes. creativesareessential.co. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you again, Nick, for joining us. Yes. You're the best. You're dope. Appreciate and you, we can't wait to have you back soon.
Yeah, we're gonna have you back on
for sure. Thank you guys.
All right, bye.
Peace.
Bye.